Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button to keep up with all the new content. Have any thoughts on Christianity, the Bible, Jesus, abusive parents, or toxic relationships? Hit me up and let's jump into today's video. Have you ever Googled, "Is lust a sin?" If you have, you know the search results will say, "Yes, it is a sin," and they will refer you to Matt 5:28 as proof, where it says, "Whoever looks at a woman to lust after her have committed adultery with her in his heart." And by this one verse, we automatically assume that every woman and man, single or married, who has ever looked with lust is guilty of adultery. A lot of Christian guys and gals struggle with dealing with lust after reading that one verse, Matt 5:28. They try hard to fight it, but then end up feeling super guilty when they realize it's not as easy to overcome as they thought. Maybe the thing is, instead of trying to beat it, they should focus on figuring out how to handle these feelings in a better way. Webster's dictionary defines adultery as voluntary sex between a married man or woman and someone who is not their spouse. In other words, you can't commit adultery if you are not married. Do you see a problem with our usual interpretation of Matt 5:28? If the standard Christian interpretation is correct, then every man and woman who is not married is free to look with lust. But there is one other problem we need to investigate. The Greek word for lust in this context does not refer to sexual desire, but rather to an intense longing to possess something or someone that is not rightfully yours. Therefore, Jesus conveys that if you covet your neighbor's spouse and never act on that desire, God still views it as if you have committed it and will judge you accordingly. Do you see how this verse isn't about sex, but more about the desire to possess someone who doesn't belong to us? So why does the Christian church interpret it as being about sex? When Jesus was on earth, the Bible he, Paul, and the apostles studied were the 5 books of Moses and the prophets. The New Testament appeared in the year 300. In the 5 books of Moses and the prophets, there is no scriptural foundation for the idea of a sinful nature. Instead, these scriptures emphasize that we are created in the image of Jehovah, mirroring his dual nature, as stated in Isaiah 45:7. What does the Bible mean when it says we and Jehovah have a dual nature? It means we and Jehovah can be self-centered, care for others, and put others before ourselves. This is not because of the fall or a sinful nature, but how Jehovah made us. We all know our self-centeredness can manifest in various degrees, from necessary and natural to excessively egotistical. At one end of the spectrum, we have essential needs such as hunger, the need for rest, and the desire for physical intimacy. These primal instincts are crucial for survival and inherent to human nature. They are not inherently sinful or evil, but rather essential for sustaining life in this world. Among these instincts are sexual desire and lust. If we never have any lust for the opposite sex, we will never have sex, and the human race will, in the end, die out. We should therefore be grateful we are created with the ability to feel sexual desire and lust, because it ensures the survival of the human species and gives us much needed physical intimacy. There is, therefore, nothing in the Bible Jesus read that condemns sexual lust, only a wrong use of it. It is about 200-300 years from when Jesus lived until we have a New Testament, and Matthew 5:28. So for 200-300 years, Jesus, the apostles, Paul, and the early Christians never considered sexual lust sinful or something they had to overcome. What changed, and what is the root cause for evangelical Christians today to see sexual lust as evil? The short answer to this question is the Roman Catholic Church. When the Roman Catholic Church came together about 200 to 300 years after Christ's death and resurrection, it was mostly made up of bishops and priests who weren't Jewish. These religious leaders came from societies and cultures heavily influenced by Plato's dualism and Greek philosophical ideas. In Plato's dualism, a key concept is that all flesh is considered sinful, and individuals must strive to overcome their physical desires, including sexual lust, to return to their true home in the spiritual realm. Sound familiar? When those who would become bishops and priests in the Roman Catholic Church converted to Christianity, they incorporated these ideas. Pope St. Gregory the Great, Thomas Aquinas, and Augustine, all strong adherents to Plato's dualism, developed the notion that sexual lust is a sin and should be conquered by the power of the Holy Spirit. To justify the idea that sexual lust is a sin, among other sins the Roman Catholic Church deems as severe, the same theologians came up with the idea of the sinful nature. By believing that we were unable to do anything right because of our sinful nature, Sexual lust became this hazardous monster we all had to overcome because we could not control it because of our sinful nature. And if we overcame it, we would, in the end, be given our reward when we would go back to our true spiritual home in heaven. This stands in sharp contrast to the Bible Jesus, Paul, the apostles, and the early Christians read, which said there is no sin in nature. Sexual lust is not a sin in itself, and we are well able to control lust if we follow Torah. As you might know, the Torah, the law of Moses, has a long list of forbidden sexual acts, things we are not allowed to do with lust. Most of those forbidden acts are things anyone, regardless of their faith or lack thereof, would agree to. This is the other exciting thing. Jesus, Paul, the apostles, and the early Christians all lived by the Torah. They believed the Torah was their guide on how to live righteously and how to channel natural desires and instincts such as sexual lust. The Roman Catholic Church deemed the Torah as too Jewish, so they came up with the idea that the Torah was nailed to the cross and not relevant to us today. But when they threw out the Torah, they also threw away God's manual on sex and were left with absolutely no guidance on how to channel sexual lust properly. The solution was to overcome lust and try to pretend it was evil so we could all return to Plato's idea of heaven. This raises an interesting question. Who should we follow? The Bible or the Roman Catholic Church? Jesus or the Pope? If the answer is Jesus, then we can't say any longer that sexual lust is a sin. But this does not mean we should allow sexual desires to run rampant, because if we follow the Torah as Jesus did, we will learn how to channel our sexual desire and lust properly. A lot of Christian guys and gals struggle with dealing with lust after reading that one verse, Matt 5:28. They try hard to fight it, but then end up feeling super guilty when they realize it's not as easy to overcome as they thought. Maybe the thing is, instead of trying to beat it, they should focus on following the Torah, which allows us to have sexual lust and teaches us how to channel it properly. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button to keep up with all the new content. Have any thoughts on Christianity, the Bible, Jesus, abusive parents, or toxic relationships? Hit me up, and until next time, God bless.